Hello, everyone. So today I am going to give you a TOGAF introduction. Before I start the introduction, my name is Vikas Kearney. I have more than 20 years of experience in IT industry. I am TOGAF certified architect. So today I wanted to give a little bit introduction of TOGAF. So what is TOGAF? TOGAF is an architecture framework. It is managed by Open Group Architecture Group. It provides the methods and tools for assisting in the acceptance, production, use, and maintenance of an enterprise architecture. It is based on iterative process and supported by best practices and reusable set of existing architecture assets. So, enterprise architecture. An enterprise architecture is critical to the business survival and success, and in is is the indispensable mean to achieve competitive advantage through IT. What does that mean? We'll look into it a little bit later. So what is enterprise? We are talking about enterprise architecture. So TOGAF defines our enterprise as any collection of organization that has common set of goals. For example, an enterprise could be a government agency, a hospital, a division of a corporation, a single department, a chain of geographically distant organizations linked together by common ownership. The term enterprise in the context of enterprise architecture can be used to denote both an entire enterprise encompassing all of its information and technology services, processes, and infrastructure, and a specific domain within the enterprise. In both cases, the architecture crosses multiple systems and multiple functional groups within the enterprise. So when I went for this TOGAF certification course, that time, that was like 10 years back. I didn't know much about architecture. I didn't know the difference between enterprise architect and solution architect. To me, all the architecture was about design. It was about solution architecture. So when he asked, what is our expectation from the course? I answered that my expectation is I will be learning some design patterns, some cool refactoring techniques. The architect, he started smiling and he said this TOGAF is more about enterprise architecture. And he asked us a question. So what enterprise architects do is whenever some new initiative starts, we see that this project, whether it meets the mission of the organization. He asked us, what is the mission of your organization? And most of people don't know the mission of the organization. So Ditya, do you know the mission of your organization? Even I have to, before this demo, I have to check myself.
It is great question.
None of us has read our mission statement, right? So to be enterprise architect, first you have to know the mission of your organization. So a lot of time, you have to see that application fits within the mission of your organization. If your organization is providing healthcare services to its clients, so they can excel in the healthcare. And if you are starting an application that has nothing to do with it, you need to ask this question: why we are doing it? I remember I was working in a financial company. I was working on a project, and that project looked like very different than rest of the organization. And afterwards, I came to know that was the individual initiative of some high level executive. Uh, Suffice to say that project faced a lot of troubles, lot of issues. So not only you have to, as an enterprise architect, you have to be careful whether this new initiative meets the goals goals, the mission statement of your organization. If you are working in the organization, if you are working on a project, it could be a risk whether that project is there or not. So, what is the
Mm-hmm.
definition of architecture? Aditya, you want to say something?
No.
Okay. So, what is the definition of architecture? I think this definition of architecture is like most of the people have different answers. So, the standard definition is the fundamental organization of a system embodied in its component, their relationships to each other and the environment, and the principles governing its design and evaluation. So, architecture is about how a system is deployed into subcomponents, how they are reacting to each other, and how they are reacting to the environment, and what are the principles. If you are a healthcare, HIPAA could be the one of the principles that your design principle could be that you never ever expose a patient personal information. So you have to come up with some principles, architecture principles. The TOGAF definition is in two parts. It respects the standard definition of architecture. First, it says it's a formal description of a system or or a detailed plan of the system at the component level to guide its implementation. Little bit will go little bit later why it says like that. And then it says the structure of components, their interrelationships, and the principle and guidelines governing their design and evaluation over time. So that is the architecture definition. I think a lot of time C# developer, you ask them what is interface, they never remember. They are not able to remember the definition. So I think same way, I think I highly recommend you should cram the definition of architecture. Nobody has asked me the definition of our architecture, but a lot of time people have asked me the definition of interface. So one thing, when you go through the TOGAF architecture, you will hear these terms again and again and again. So within TOGAF architecture, there are four architecture domains. The first is the business architecture. Business architecture defines the business strategy, governance, organization, and key business processes. So first thing, you have to know the business, what your company is doing before you can come up some solutions. Second is the data architecture. Data architecture describes the structure of organizations, logical and physical data assets, and data management resources. And so you have a business, you have a data architecture domain. Then comes the application architecture, which provides a blueprint for the individual application systems to be deployed, their interactions, their relationship to the core business processes of the organization. And once you have the business need, business requirements, you decided your data requirement, you decided which applications are going to support these business domains, you need now the infrastructure. That's where technology architecture domains come into picture. So this describes the logical software and hardware capabilities that are required to support the deployment of business data and application services. This include IT infrastructure, middle tier, network communication, processing standards, extra. So how you develop ADM? Uh, ADM stands for Architecture Development Method. So it provides a tested and repeatable process for developing architectures. It includes establishing architecture framework, transitioning, governing the realization for architectures. So this is the whole process or flow. We'll go one by one. So preliminary phase is the start phase. In this phase, uh, we start the preparation and initiation activities which require us to prepare to meet the business directive for a new enterprise architecture, including the definition of an organization specific architecture framework and the definition of the principles. So at this level, we have to design the principles. Like for healthcare, HIPAA could be very critical, that we will never ever expose any patient information. After preliminary phase, there's a architecture vision phase. In this phase describes the initial phase of architecture development cycle. Includes information on defining the scope, identifying the stakeholders, creating the architecture vision, and obtaining the approvals. So we have to find the stakeholders who are going to pay us the money to do the development, and we have to address their concerns that our new architecture meets their concerns. So it's about any architecture development methodologies like any other thing. You have to define the scope, get the go ahead from the stakeholders, create a vision, and get the okay. So business architecture, as we discussed, TOGAF has four domain architectures. So phase two is business architecture, describes the development of a business architecture to support an agreed architecture vision. So we have to know the business requirements to so that we can build some application and data. Phase C is the information system architecture. Here you decide what are the different applications you need to support your business requirements, and what are the data development, data storage needs, logical, physical. What are the tools you need? So here, like you do the analysis of what you have and where you want to be, the targeted phase, and you do the gap analysis and find out what you need to fill the gap. There are a lot of detailed discussion. If you go in the TOGAF documentation, it gives you a lot of information. Uh, what are the documents you need? What are the requirements? What kind of artifacts you need to start the phase, and what are the documents you will be producing? Today we'll just going through the introduction. We'll not go into that details. So then you have come up the business architecture. You have documented the business requirements. Uh, what are the business future requirements where you want to be, and you have decided the database architecture, storage needs. What are the applications which you need to develop to support that business requirements. This then comes a phase where you have to build the software, hardware capabilities, involve the infrastructure guys, uh, make sure your network is aligned with your future architecture. So opportunity and solution phase, here you conduct initial implementation planning and identification of delivery vehicles for the architecture defined in the previous phases. Migration planning is here is the preliminary. Then you came with the architecture vision. You defined your business architecture, information system architecture, technology architecture. You came with a plan how you're going to implement. Now is a migration planning. In migration planning, address the formulation of a set of detailed sequence of transition architecture with a supporting implementation and migration plan. So you have to put a governance methods so that you are overseeing the development. So your whatever your architecture vision is there, you have to make sure that that is being implemented. And once your architecture is being built, is deployed, there will be changes. You have to do architecture change management, establishes processes for managing change to the new architecture. You have to see that new changes are not corrupting the architecture and not destroying your architecture. uh, all these phases, there's a require management, examines the process of managing architecture requirements throughout the ADM. So out of these phases, when we are documenting business requirements, doing the gap analysis, coming up with what are the new application, data storage, what are the infrastructure needs, we are going to produce lot of diagrams. So TOGAF architectural content framework provides a structure model for architectural content that allows major work products to be consistently defined, structured, and presented. So we're going to produce a lot of artifacts during these phases. There could be catalogs. What are the different applications which are supporting a business unit? What are different matrices? What are the diagrams? It could be business flow diagram, use cases diagram, class diagrams. So all this will be stored in repository where other people can find and find it. And also the building blocks. These are the frameworks which are common to all the applications which others can use. So we will put building blocks in there. So this is the introduction to the TOGAF. There's a lot more. So TOGAF is a proven structure framework for enterprise architecture. ADM is the core method for architecture development. It supports the alignment of IT and business. TOGAF can scale with the needs of your organization. So that concludes our introduction. Any question, Aditya?
Yes, I have some questions.
Go
Uh,
ahead.
uh, yeah, like we have some concept of architecture style, architecture pattern, design pattern, where we see some rules and constants. Like in architecture style, we have REST, so protocols, architecture pattern, like we have MBC, MBVM, and other patterns which we follow, and we visualize and we can see. And the design pattern, we have some common issues which we fix through design patterns multiple. So we apply those concepts in our project. Here, I am really confused and
So Aditya, like I was
maybe
also confused. Yeah, Aditya, I was also confused like you. When I went for TOGAF architecture, like I thought I will see, the way you are describing, that's what I'm going to learn. So enterprise
Mhm.
architecture, what we are talking about is solution architecture.
Okay.
So if you imagine how this TOGAF came into picture, like it came from the Boeing company.
Okay.
So Boeing company, you can understand, like it's a
Yes.
very big corporation. They have offices
Yes.
all over the places, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you need some people who can manage the architecture. They have to make sure that there's no duplicate technical effort happening. Okay. So
Okay.
it is very high level. Like these are the guys, like they are making sure that this architecture means architecture this architecture is happening, making its architecture is solving enterprise problems. So there's no duplicate effort. Like you are building something in Delhi, and some other person should not build the same thing in London. You know what I mean?
Okay. Okay.
So
Yes.
the enterprise architecture is at that level,
Mm-hmm.
very high level. So solution architecture is you're building a solution for a particular project. Daily means particular project, right? Within that solution you are implementing all those MVC, all those things. So that is outside, that is like a very outside of this scope. This is describing the
Okay.
framework for enterprise level.
Mm-hmm.
So enterprise level,
Okay.
you means architect at London and architect at Delhi. They need to have some kind of repository where they can see this has not been implemented before. And so like they may be building system, Boeing, which will be among lot of different geography, right? It will be on the, they may be building an application. So there may be system being built in London, USA, India, different Europe. So they are looking more at high level, right? What are the components,
Okay.
how they are going to interact, to how they're going to talk to each other, what are the infrastructure needs, what are the interfaces they're going to support, and means is there any full, what are the database storage, how you are implementing within that module, that is you independent, right? And especially with microservices architecture, you have the whole freedom. You can decide with microservices architecture, you can decide which language you want to implement. As long you are
Yes.
implementing REST API, you have all the freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Even enterprise architect don't need to tell you whether you should use Python, C Sharp, or Java. All as long you build a microservices which take a payload and return a response over HTTP, they don't care anything else. And you are storing the information in this database, which which has been agreed upon. So within your microservices, what are the design patterns you are using? You have the full freedom. It's outside
Okay.
the scope of enterprise architecture.
So it's beyond and it's high level than that we do in at our daily basis,
Very true.
as I
Very true. It's
understand.
like beyond microservices, like it's like how the microservices will be used, you know.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Any other question, Aditya?
So we'll have more session on this next and going
Sure, sure.
forward on.
I'll at least I'll cover some. There are some more high level.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anybody would be interested in knowing each each phase. What are the documents you produce? What are the document inputs? Each phase. What are the details? Nobody would be interested, right? But
Yes.
high level. There are some more pieces to this one. I'll have at least part two.
Okay then.
Okay, Aditya. Good night. Thank you. Thanks for joining.
Thank you. Bye.